Greetings, everyone. And I thought I'd come on here and talk about 3iAtlas because there's some new exciting things happening. It's an exciting topic, and I want to talk too about why people are excited about this and also all the theories that are out there. So, up until now, I've been talking about what the scientists are saying, and then also what I'm picking up, through channeling. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Jennifer Lisa Vest. I'm a psychic medium, a medical intuitive. I do have a background in astrophysics. I'm also a philosopher. And I've been really interested in combining, scientific understandings with psychic understandings. And this is something that I've always been interested in. And I think it's the future of knowledge, that in the future we are going to take seriously what mystics and psychics have to say. And then we're going to combine it with what scientists have to say. We don't have to choose, right? And we're also going to let the philosophers weigh in. Like, let's use some logic too. So I've been kind of following what's going on with 3iAtlas, what some of the astronomers are saying, the professional astronomers, the amateur astronomers. What are the psychics saying? Some people are tuning in, like me, and channeling as well. And so today, something new happened. Okay, so today, I just found out a couple of hours ago, NASA, together with the Minor Planet Center of the International Astronomical Union, has just activated the International Asteroid Warning Network for the interstellar object 3iAtlas, with the aim of improving astrometry and object tracking capabilities. In the official statement, the International Astronomical Union requests records from observatories around the world between November 27th and January 27th, 2026. All astronomers and observatories around the world are invited to send all records to the alert system. So, and some people are saying this is just an exercise, or this is just something that happens and we shouldn't worry about it. But I think it's interesting, right? They're, trying to coordinate, right? Let's everybody look at this 3iAtlas at the same time. And the time frame that they're talking about is kind of overlapping when 3iAtlas will be closest to Earth. So right now it's closest to the sun. Before that, it was closest to Mars. And then when it comes out from the other side of the sun, if it follows a trajectory that they're anticipating, it will be closer to the Earth. Now, caveat about that, because here's the thing about comets. Let's say it is a comet. And, I've said in the past, I think there's just not enough evidence to support the hypothesis that it's a comet. But that's the official story. So let's just talk about that official story for a minute. If it were a comet, comets are composed primarily of ice. And when they get close to the sun, they go through something called sublimation, which is basically an ice cube melting. And the ice turns into gas, and they develop these long tails of dust and gas, and they start to kind of, shrink and break up. And so you don't really know what's going to happen to a comet when it goes near the sun. It might shrink so much that its trajectory completely changes because the mass changes so much. It might break up into other objects, and depending on the forces that push those objects apart, you don't know what the trajectory then is going to be of those other objects. And so some people are a little alarmed by this, saying, oh, does this mean that, excuse me, people are saying, does this mean that NASA is anticipating it breaking up, and they're now concerned that pieces are going to come into the Earth orbit and possibly hit Earth? Of course, there are always going to be people who are afraid of that, right? And so I wanted to talk about all the different theories that I'm seeing people come out with. I don't know if theory is the right word. Hypothesis. Hypotheses. But before I talk about all these theories, I want to talk about another piece of news from today. And I got this from Dobsonian Power, which is a great YouTube channel by an amateur astronomer who's been following 3iAtlas. And he's really good at staying on top of whatever scientific papers are coming out. And so he just saw a paper today that came out by SETI. And SETI is an organization that's, I think it's the Search for Intelligent Life or something. It's, basically they've been trying to communicate with extraterrestrials for years, but they are associated with the government. They're like government funded, I think. So they put out a paper, a brand new paper, saying that they're changing the protocols for what you do when you communicate with extraterrestrials. And, the guy, Dobsonian Power, he's like, this is kind of suspicious. Why now? Right? At the same time that we're watching this bizarre interstellar object. And so I thought that was really interesting too. But, one of the things that continues to be really interesting about this object is the silence, right? If you talk to astronomers, anyone who knows anything about astronomy will tell you that this is one of the most exciting things to happen in a long time, probably in the lifetime of many astronomers. This object, this interstellar object, has so many anomalies that none of the kind of standard knowledge about comets, I shouldn't say none, but a lot of it doesn't apply. So this is something that's never been seen before. It's highly unusual. It's doing things that, astrophysicists don't understand, which makes it a really interesting event for scientists. And given how unique and interesting this event is, we should expect to be hearing a lot about it. And yes, people will say, well, NASA is in a shutdown, but even prior to the shutdown, we weren't hearing a whole lot. And even during the shutdown, there are still some people working. It's not like everybody's at home. There are some, essential employees who are still working. And, as evidenced by the fact that they were able to put out this, NASA astronomical alert, whatever, somebody's there. Someone's at the controls sending out alerts and announcements. But even if, even if it was, NASA's closed, they don't have people to make announcements or to give us pictures of what they're seeing. It doesn't make sense that the rest of the international space community is also silent. Also, these space communities, these different space associations work together. So, they could easily exchange information, and normally they do. And so it's not like, because NASA is closed, that no other space agencies can talk about anything. We're not the boss of them. And, some of those other astronomers in other space agencies would have access to some of the images from our space agency because of the collaborations that they're involved in. And so it does seem like there's been some sort of agreement to just not talk about this thing. And this is really exciting because if it were just a comet, they would just tell us, this is just a comet, nothing to see here. There would be more discussion, right? If it was just a comet, they would have like periodic announcements. Oh yeah, comet 3iAtlas, we got some more images and we've confirmed this and that. So the absence of any real substantive news or images of it, I think, suggests that it's something more interesting than a comet. And if you've been following me, you know that I have myself tuned into 3iAtlas. I've communicated with it, and I've been informed by the object itself that it is not a comet, it is not an asteroid, it is sentient, it is on a mission. The mission is benevolent, it's not nefarious. The mission really isn't about us. It's not really focused on humanity. It's focused on life forms in the solar system, in our solar system. And so that's why they're doing flybys of Mars and Jupiter. The sun they're also interested in, and Earth. And so, but their interest is in life forms, the many, many hundreds, millions of life forms that exist on these various planets. And humanity is just one of the life forms, and, not the most interesting one. So why is this important? I wanted to talk about why 3iAtlas is important, all of the reasons that it's important to us. It's important to different people for different reasons. And I wanted to discuss some of those. And then I'm going to, after that, talk a little bit more about information I've received directly from 3iAtlas. All right, so let's talk about some of these theories about 3iAtlas. One is the ancient astronaut theory. Whether it's Anunnaki, Nephilim, or Nibiru. These are all different kind of theories. I think one of them comes from Sitchin, forget his first name, but he was a writer, like a science writer, who came up with one of these theories that Earth was originally seeded by beings from other star systems who came here and kind of created humanity. And so there's this ancient being theory that, 3iAtlas is a ship that belongs to one of these ancient groups that either, is related to us, or they're coming back for us, or they're they're coming to see how we're doing. And then one version of this ancient alien theory specifically is about African Americans, saying that the Anunnaki are African American, they're coming to rescue the African Americans. And I think that one's pretty interesting because Derek Bell, who is a famous scholar and author, wrote this short story that was quite famous in, I think, the 90s or the early aughts, I can't remember, where he told this science fiction story about how these aliens came and took all the Black people off of planet Earth, and like how devastating it was. And so all the people who were racist, who always thought they didn't like Black people, when they've realized that Black people left, how much they were going to lose. So it was just kind of a, scientific kind of, also kind of political commentary, satire type short story. And so this theory about, they're coming here to get their people, it seems to borrow from that short story. Now, another version of that ancient alien theory is that they're coming here to get the star seeds. And so star seeds are people who have some type of hybrid origins. Either our DNA is partially from another star system and partially human. Another idea about, or another definition of star seed is that we have lived many past lives on other star systems, and our soul incarnated onto Earth for a particular mission to help humanity or to collect data. And so some people are saying, they're coming to get the star seeds and they're going to rescue us from planet Earth. And this is part of a kind of collection of theories, this kind of nihilism or, kind of hopelessness, where, our situation is so bad right now in the United States politically that there are a lot of people who just kind of want off this planet, right? They want off. They want out of this. And so I think that's part of why 3iAtlas is important right now, because a lot of us have escape fantasies right now. A lot of us we also have hero savior fantasies. We want somebody to save us from our current regime. And so some of these theories about 3iAtlas kind of fall into that category of, they're going to come save us. Someone's going to come save us. Someone's going to, or at the very least, they're going to come and distract our overlords so they can stop oppressing us and be focused instead on, aliens. Right. So some of these theories are like a rapture theory, right? So like that they're going to come in and take the star seeds or take the Black people. And, it within the kind of, right-wing Christian community in the United States, we recently had this whole rapture mythology where people thought they were going to be, taken up to heaven. And that, again, I think was just an escape, fantasy, because people are so unhappy. And they're like, just get me out of here. And so some people also have this kind of rapture idea of, 3iAtlas is going to come and, take us away or save us in some way. Now, another theory is the ghost ship theory. And that idea is that, this is like a spaceship that, everybody died on board and it's just floating through space, and it's been floating for billions of years or whatever, millions of years. And there's no one in it. And then another version of that is, this is just space debris, like it's a piece of a ship. And it's not actually a ship, but just like a piece of debris, maybe a ship, exploded in space, and this piece is just floating. Now, the ghost ship is kind of interesting because I think there's probably an episode of Star Trek with a ghost ship. I feel like I remember that. So there are a lot of Trekkie theories out here. I'm a Trekkie. And so, but keep in mind, side note about Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. He was himself a starseed. He did communicate with ETs. And so some of the ideas he got directly from extraterrestrials. That's what I've been told. And it kind of makes sense because he really came up with he really came up with some really interesting ideas. Now, there are a couple of more kind of paranoid theories. One is the kind of Don't Look Up theory. Don't Look Up is a movie that came out, I think, last year about this giant comet that was coming towards Earth, and it was going to destroy all life on Earth. And the government just decided not to tell anybody. And so it was like a government cover-up of the destruction of the world. So some people are saying that, oh, that's why NASA's not talking. That's why all the space agencies internationally are not speaking about this, because they don't want to tell us that it's going to come and destroy the Earth or some part of the Earth. Another kind of scary theory, no, this one's not scary. Well, I don't know, is blue beam. So the blue beam theory is that the United States government, apparently this is actually something that I guess there's documentation for in the CIA or something, that this is a project, blue beam project, this idea that the US government would tell everybody that there was an alien invasion coming and do that in order to kind of get control of the population by scaring them. And so some people are saying, oh, this is Project Bluebeam. There's nothing going on, but the government just wants us to think there is so that they can, get control of us. I don't understand how people have that theory, because the government's not talking about this at all. They're doing the opposite. They're like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And so how can they scare us with something that they're not talking about? I don't know. And for context, if you're wondering why, I think it's suspicious that the space agencies aren't talking about this interstellar object more. If you look at the way they talked about the last two interstellar objects that came into our solar system, one was called Boris and one was called Umama Mama or something. Can't remember. There was a lot of chatter about those. So the astronomers were all talking about it. There were lots of updates. There were lots of images. If you compare that to what's going on now, it doesn't make sense, especially since this one is far more interesting than those other ones because it has so many anomalies. It's doing so many things that they don't really understand. They don't really fit into their theory of comets. So, why the silence? Okay, so I just did some channeling, and here's the interesting thing is the last couple of days when I've tried to connect with 3iAtlas, I haven't been able to connect. And, I've connected a couple of times in the past. And it's interesting because I've seen some other people online talking about trying to connect and being unable to connect, and other people saying that they have connected. And so today what I did was, instead of connecting directly to 3iAtlas, is I decided to connect with members of my star family and ask them about 3iAtlas. And so if you're a starseed and you have origins in other places, and you have the gift to do so, you can communicate with your star family, with the people, the beings on other star systems. And so I did go to this one place and ask questions about 3iAtlas and got a bunch of information. I'm probably going to have to do a part 2. And so I'll just talk a little bit about what they told me, and then I'll continue it in another video so this one doesn't get too long. So the people I was talking to, they gave me the name Dobby from Harry Potter. They kind of look like Dobby, they're kind of bald, little, kind of like house elves. And when I asked them where they were, They said that they were in the Lyra star system. But I don't think it was Lyra, but it was like, I don't really know about Lyra. I've heard about it, but I have to look it up. But they were like the third planet from the star, kind of like Earth is, in the star system of Lyra. So I did, I did ask them some questions. I asked questions about, some of the things that are happening right now. And so, for example, I asked them, even though I've already gotten information from them about like what their purpose is, I did ask about that again. And one of the things that I got was that they told me before, they're not here for humans. Their focus is not humans. They're here to communicate with a lot of the different beings on the different star systems here. And and so they they were talking really about the stuff that they're here to do. And so one of the things they said that they're here to do is they are broadcasting. They said that they're broadcasting kind of a signal out to the whole solar system, and that broadcast is is not primarily for us, but it's like something that you do to be polite. So they said that when you go to visit a new star system, you always kind of let people know that you're there. That's just the polite thing to do. You don't just show up in someone's star system careening through space, without an invitation and not announce yourself. And they to help me understand it, they were saying, how like certain African cultures and like I think the Navajo do this. Like it's like when you go visit somebody, like these are places where people don't use telephones. You stand a certain distance from their door and you say, hello, whatever, or some greeting. And then that gives the person time to kind of get ready, get their house in order, whatever. And then when they're ready, they'll come to the door and say, oh, hello, come on in. And so they said it's like that with spaceships or with, visiting other star systems, is that you announce that you're there. And so they said they're sending out a broadcast, and that this broadcast can be picked up by all of the beings on all of the planets in our solar system. And I asked, well, are the scientists picking up this broadcast? And they said, yes, they are. And so I asked, well, do they understand the broadcast? And they said, well, some more than others. And I asked specifically about SETI, since the update today, right, was that article that came out saying SETI is changing their protocols for talking to extraterrestrials. And so they said, yes, the people at SETI are much clearer about what's going on. Like they're very clear that this is a broadcast, because that's been their work. Right from the beginning, their whole focus has been, can we pick up a broadcast from someone? Whereas the astronomers, the astrophysicists, they're not looking for a broadcast, they're looking for something else. And they also said, because of the dogma of science that really teaches them that they're not supposed to think about that, they're not even really open-minded to the possibility, it prevents them, it kind of blinds them from analyzing the data at times, because if they see a broadcast, it's like, no, you didn't. You saw a broadcast? No, you didn't. So, but they did say that, so I asked, well, what's going on then with the space agencies? Why are they not telling us anything? Because I just wanted, another perspective on this. And they said that they're not speaking that much because they don't know what to say. And so they just gave me all these question marks. Like the scientists are all in a state of like quandary. Like they're getting all this data. They don't have a theory for this data yet. They know that the data doesn't fit the hypotheses they had about it being a comet or an asteroid or whatever they thought it was. So they know that, but coming up with a new theory for what this is going to take them some time. It's a major paradigm shift in science and like astrophysics. Like they're having to rethink their models. And so there's also just a lot of cowardice, like professional cowardice, like people who don't want to go out on a limb and propose a whole new model or a whole new paradigm. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to propose a new paradigm in science, because if you're wrong, you can be laughed out of the community, or you can, your reputation can be shot. And so part of it is just a lot of confusion and questioning. And they said they're spending a lot of time talking, they're doing a lot of theorizing, they're collaborating. There is a lot going on behind the scenes, but they are controlling what gets released, what gets published, because they feel like they don't have enough answers yet to really release anything kind of official, right? So I think I'm going to stop this video at this point because, okay, not yet, but soon, because I don't want it to get too long. But I did want to remind people, because I always forget, I want to remind people that I have, I've written a couple of books. So if you're interested in psychic work or healing work, I have my book, The Ethical Psychic, which is like a handbook for psychics and healers to be able to engage in their practice ethically. Great for beginners and people who are already established. And then my newest book is a book on Native American philosophy called Sovereign Wisdom. This just came out last year. And I just want to thank everybody who watches me. I want to thank you for liking, for commenting, for subscribing. I really appreciate it. My guides have given me this task of trying to reach a global audience, trying to help people navigate the political times that we're in, to help people to understand the spiritual significance of this historical moment. And so that's what motivates me to do this work. And so any feedback I get from you, letting me know that the work I'm doing is helping you, is really appreciated, because that just lets me know that I'm on track, that I'm doing things correctly. And I'm also open to suggestions and questions, and whatever you want to share with me in the comments, I always appreciate. So there'll be a part 2 for this. I'm gonna record it today, so stay tuned.